Hey, what's up, guys? How's it going? Let me adjust this camera just a little bit here. Perfect. All right, guys, I'm going to kill just a couple of minutes real quick, just while everybody else is kind of joining us. I hope I have a few more join us. If not, we'll continue anyhow. But real quick, just a few plugs to kill some time. Obviously, Tax Sale Playbook, if you have not picked it up, please take a moment to pick it up. It's a great beginning resource to learn about tax sale investing. You can get that at taxsaleacademy.com. We've got the Tax Sale Podcast at taxsalepodcast.com. If you're into podcasts, it's an awesome podcast for listening about tax sale investing on the go. Lots of strategies and that kind of stuff. Usually do 2 podcast episodes. The first one on Mondays is going to be a more lengthier podcast episode on a kind of a strategy or a tactic, where our Friday one is kind of a shorter episode. We also have the state guide. There's a link down below in the description if you're looking for information on a specific state. Down below in the description if you're looking for information on a specific state. Be sure to check that out. And then, of course, we have the Tax Sale Academy if you're looking to get the step-by-step comprehensive type training that we offer through the Academy. All right, so those are all the plugs, and I think I've killed about a minute or so. So basically the way that I work these live Q&As, if you have a question at any time, type it into that chat box. If I see it pop up, I'll get to it when I get to it. Kind of work down in order just so I don't try to skip anybody, that kind of stuff. But I also have some pre-submitted questions because a lot of times it'll take a little bit to kind of get everybody going in the question asking mode, that kind of stuff. So the pre-submitted questions, these are questions I receive via Instagram. I receive them via email, on YouTube, under videos, all sorts of other stuff. And if you happen to have, or if you happen to listen and you hear your question asked, I might have responded to it privately to you, but there's also a good chance that I thought it was a good question, so I'm going to reshare it with everybody else. And that's kind of the reason I've got, like 530 videos, so most of my questions get buried underneath the video somewhere. So if it's a good question, I often repeat them in these Q&As. So again, if you have any questions at all, feel free to submit them at any time. Pac-Man, hey, good morning, or good afternoon, good evening. Glad to have each one of you guys on board. All right, so let's start with some questions. So a few weeks ago on YouTube, Run Rabbit was a screen name. It says, why the quiet title suit? And they were referring to an expense that I had listed on a breakdown. I think it was like the $20 house or something along those lines. And she's, in that expense with a quiet title suit fee. She basically was asking, or she or he was basically asking, why is there a quiet title suit fee? Why is that even involved? Well, if you invest in tax defaulted real estate, and you buy a tax deed or you take a tax lien through foreclosure, that process kind of clouds the title. It really kind of muddies the title. So what happens is, unless you take additional action, you will not be able to get title insurance on that property. And without title insurance, you really narrow down your buyer pool. You can definitely sell it without title insurance, but you're going to narrow your buyer pool, and you're also going to reduce the value of that property because it does have a clouded title. So the suit to quiet title is basically an attorney most of the time handles it. It's a judicial action. The judge will sign off on it after they go through the whole process and all that good stuff. It's a lawsuit is what it is. But once the judge signs off on it, it's clear. You give that to a title company, and they say, okay, we'll insure it. So you can get the max value. So I thought that was a good question. Let's see, Jeremy, a few weeks ago, kind of a follow-up. It's actually a different video, but kind of on the same topic. He asked for companies concerning what's called the tax title certification process. So you can do the suit to quiet title, which will clear that title and will allow you to get the title insurance that you need to sell. Now, what happens when it comes to that? I mean, obviously that's a court action. You have attorneys to deal with, which sometimes they like to take their time. You have dockets and that kind of stuff. An alternative to that, one alternative is called a tax title certification process. You have specialized companies that are bonded. They have close relationships with national title insurance companies. And what they do is they'll actually go back and research the tax foreclosure to ensure it was done properly. And if it was, which most of the time it was done properly, but if it was, then they'll say, yes, we certify this to our partner title insurance agency, and we will provide title insurance for that property once again. So that's basically the tax title certification process. As far as prices, and usually it's a much shorter timeline, but as far as prices, it could be the same as the suit to quiet title, or it could even be a little bit more just depending on the attorney that you're using, the area that you're in, and that kind of stuff. So he was asking for a few different companies. Tax Title Services, and I think it's taxtitleservices.com. You can Google all these. That's going to be the most popular company. I believe they're in California. They've been doing it for many, many years now. They've done tens of thousands of tax foreclosed properties and cleared the title on them. Another one is Clear to Sell. I think it's cleartosell.com or cleartosell.net. I think they're just operating in Florida. Not sure if they've expanded yet. And then the third one is kind of the new kid on the block, or at least as far as I'm concerned, because I've just started hearing about them recently, and that's Meridian Title Services. So you can Google Meridian Title Services, and I believe somewhere buried on their website they have like tax sale investors or something along those lines. So those three companies: Tax Title Services, Clear to Sell, and Meridian. All right, let's see. Oh my God, Pac-Man. Oh, Miami Realtor, awesome, cool deal. Yeah, like having a rebuilt title on a car. Yeah, it's similar, but yeah, basically it's. I guess that's actually a good analogy. So when you sell a piece of property after it's gone through tax foreclosure, you're basically selling a property with a rebuilt title. I guess that's a great analogy. When you go through the foreclosure certification process, or when you go through the suit to quiet title, it completely clears it as if it never happened, though. So a little bit, that's the one difference. Let's see here. T. Simmons, let's see. Can you go over the process of finding out and what we can do to eliminate tax liens? I'm assuming you're referencing like IRS tax liens, that kind of stuff. A lot of people are very, very cautious about IRS liens. More often than not, you won't find them I should say that they're not very common. They're not as common as a lot of people like to worry about them. But as far as finding them, what you'll have to do, you have to search the owner's name. Do some research. You almost have to be like a private investigator, right? You have to find the owner's name, the delinquent taxpayer owner's name, search them in county records and see if there's a federal tax lien file against them. So search them all through public records and see if you can get that tax lien or not. In that situation, if there is a tax lien against that property and the IRS wants it, you have to understand they have to have attorney's fees, they have the expense of selling that property through a broker and that kind of stuff. So usually it's going to be a valuable property. They're not going to do it for a $5,000 lot because it's just not going to be worth it. But in that situation, they will reimburse you your money, but you do have that 120-day redemption window. So basically it all goes back to figuring out the history of that specific I guess the delinquent taxpayer, the person that lost the property. Search them in public record, you search their name, that kind of stuff. So, but more often than not, it's very rare, especially in the low dollar stuff. Even if they do have a tax lien against them, the IRS is not going to come in and say, listen, we want that $10,000 house to help satisfy this $150,000 lien, because they know they have $10,000 in the house. They're going to have some taxes probably to do on it. They're going to have some realtor fees. They're going to have to list it, all that good stuff. And they know the chances of them actually making any money off of it are very slim. So if you're going to invest a lot of money, you could definitely spend a lot of time looking at that. But for the smaller stuff, you might not be too concerned. Let's see. You have to bear with me, guys, as I go through the questions, because we do have, it's a little bit difficult just to catch up and find my spot. Can I record using special warranty deed on vacant land without quiet title? Yes, you can. United Parcel asked that question. You can definitely use a special warranty deed, which basically warrants the property from the time you acquire the property until the time you sold the property. You can use a special warranty deed. I would probably prefer to use a quitclaim deed just because it eliminates all warranty at all. Obviously, some buyers are going to have some issue with that kind of stuff. You could use a special warranty deed if you wanted to, but again, by using that, you are warranting at least during the period of your ownership. So make sure you know exactly what you've got. Make sure there's nobody that filed a lien the day after you bought it that you don't know about or anything like that. Anything crazy, stuff like that does happen. So when you sign that deed, you are providing a warranty of sorts. So quitclaim deed is definitely less liable, but a lot of buyers won't want that. So hopefully that answered your question. And yeah, truthfully, it doesn't matter if it's a vacant lot or a commercial building or anything else. It's all the same in public record. So, Marvin Johnson, in Indiana Lake County, basically, how and when can we buy, and can we use credit cards to purchase tax deeds? Marvel, great question. I'm actually not familiar with Lake County. You can, if you browse over to there's a link below, and it'll actually take you to the very bottom of the state guide. You can click on the state guide, and that'll take you to Indiana. And inside of that, I'm actually looking at it right now. It's a tax lien state. It's got all sorts of information on there. So that'll be a great place to start to learn about it. And as far as your specific area, what I would do is I would contact the tax collector's office in that area and just say, listen, when is your tax lien sale held? How can I get a list? That kind of stuff. The best place to start really with all this is by contacting your local government office. And what I always try to do is just, call them, act as if you've never heard of tax lien investing. Say, listen, What's this? What happens to delinquent properties, taxes on the properties? What happens then? I heard something about a tax sale. Can you fill me in? Act like you don't know anything about it. Allow them to kind of just give you a whole bunch of information and tell you all sorts of stuff about it. That's going to be a phenomenal way to learn. Now, sometimes you'll speak to a receptionist that is not going to be very helpful, but a lot of times they want you to learn. If it's local to you, go to the office and see if they have any information, that kind of stuff they can give you. Because learning on a state, if you learn nationally, that's awesome. State by state is even awesome. But what happens is from county to county, they'll have little bits of law that they will apply a tad bit differently. They have a certain process that they use. They do things their way, just because they're so used to doing it. So a great first step is going to be to contact your county office, learning the exact process, and just kind of keep probing for information. So hopefully that helps you out. Mark the Dennis, I bought foreclosure from a trustee sale, but ended up losing it. I didn't know about the quiet title. It was 2012. Bought it from 14 from an HOA. What have I done wrong? I still have the mortgage. Let's see here. You can go back to that question I bought. All right, so it sounds like you bought it through was that a bank foreclosure or a tax foreclosure? Because different areas call trustee sales, we can refer to them as different things. Didn't do the quiet title, it was 2012. You bought from $14,000 from the HOA. Another thing too is HOA liens. So if it was like an HOA type foreclosure, if you bought an HOA foreclosure trustee sale, HOA might or might not have superiority over mortgages and other stuff. Typically, nobody will have superiority over the taxes. So not positive I'm following you. Let me know where you bought it at. If it was like an HOA, like a foreclosure type sale, or if you bought it at a tax sale and maybe you acquired the HOA. Not exactly sure. I'm following. I'm sorry about that. Pac-Man, does the tax sale company teach us how to do specifically designed for the county you want to invest in? We don't go into the specifics on every single county just because there's thousands of different counties out there. But I've personally invested in close to a dozen states through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of counties. So I've got a lot of experience in different areas. So off that training, I kind of teach, everything that I've gone through over the years. Now, obviously, there's plenty of counties that I've never invested in, of course, but again, that goes back to, learning everything that you can about the process, learn the strategies, learn the techniques for the research, learn what you do, learn the marketing, that kind of stuff, all this step-by-step, that stuff that we teach, then go in to the county and get the specifics for that particular county. Because again, even though the state law might say something like right here, and most counties interpret it right here, there's going to be that one county that's like, we've always done things this way, so we're not going to change anything. But you do have that happen, and unfortunately, it happens from time to time. You just got to be familiar with the process of the specific county. But my suggestion is to learn about the process, learn about the state, then kind of keep working your way down, till you get to the exact counties you want to invest in. Is your real estate agent license still active? Yes, it is. I am a real estate broker in the state of Florida, and it's still active. Most of the stuff that I do is my personal stuff, with the exception of just very close friends. But for the most part, tax sale investing takes up all my time. Any good hints in tax sale investing in Pennsylvania? Best period to buy, search, good deals. Really, for as far as I get a variation of that question quite a bit. Any hints for this area or that area, or what's the best state, that kind of stuff. My suggestion is always going to be to first off figure out if you want tax deeds, tax liens, so you can narrow down the state. Sounds like you already have. From there, look at the previous auction results and don't just limit yourself to one county. A lot of people really tend to limit themselves to one county, and unfortunately, if you pick the bad county, that means that you're gonna hate tax sale investing. You'll never make a dime because you might pick a very, very competitive county that has all sorts of tax sale investors in it, that kind of stuff. So just understand that does happen. So don't limit yourself to one county, but review their previous auction results. Go through them to determine not only if it's in your budget, but how many properties they sell, the prices that they're selling for, to see if there's any money there, how often they hold them, that kind of stuff. And what you can do from there, get a good little sampling of different counties, and maybe research one or two of the previously sold properties. Get a good idea of what exactly is going on in those counties, and then you can have a better idea. Hey, that's the area that I need to invest in because of the previous auction. Because the past is going to really be an indication of the future when it comes to tax sale investing. If you've got an area and everything's selling way up here nonstop, over and over and over, like some of the largest counties, it's going to be a good indication that there's always going to be competition there. But if you have, where there are bargains there, that's definitely going to be an indication you need to continue. So look at the previous auction results is the short answer to the question that I kind of was a little bit long-winded on. Let me take a sip of water real quick, guys. Sean, great question. Can I avoid quiet title if I get a quitclaim deed from the prior owner if the property has a mortgage? Very good question. So you had basically Sean, at the beginning of the live stream we were talking about title clouds and stuff like that. Not sure if Sean caught, I'm not sure if any other of you guys, but basically when you go through tax foreclosure, the title gets cloudy. You have to go through suit to quiet title, tax foreclosure certification, that kind of stuff to get it cleared up to get title insurance. Now, one way around that is to have that delinquent owner grant you or give you a quitclaim deed to the property, because that's basically them saying, listen, because part of the whole issue with the tax foreclosure and title clouds and stuff is because there could be somebody on that chain of title that states a claim to that property. That's why it's not clear. So when you do like a suit to quiet title, you're actually suing anybody that can have an interest in that property to quiet all their claims for that title. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. When you get a quitclaim deed from a prior owner, that can satisfy the qualification that the title insurance looks for in order to insure that property. Now, my suggestion, Sean, though, is that your answer is yes, but, and this is a big but, you need to get it verified by the title insurance company. Don't always just go on the yes, I'm gonna just go get a quitclaim deed, make it nice and easy. It has to be verified by the title insurance company because they are the third party that's issuing the title insurance against the property. So maybe it was just a one owner type deal, but before that, maybe somebody died and didn't go through probate correctly, and that person had 7 heirs, and it just happened to end up in the person that signed your quitclaim deed, but there's 6 other kids out there that also think they own the property. So like there could be all sorts of crazy situations. Maybe there was a situation where the person that is shown as the owner, as the delinquent owner, I guess, the person that signs the deed, wasn't really the owner because maybe, the deed wasn't recorded correctly, or maybe the county has the records on. There's all sorts of crazy situations that could happen. So before you go through the time, the expense, and maybe even the money to pay that person to sign that quitclaim deed, make sure you run it by your title company. Say, hey, listen, if so-and-so, the former owner, signs this, am I good to go? Can you insure it then? Or do I have to get a suit to quiet title? And of course, you're gonna need to do a title search ahead of time, but typically, they can apply the money for that title search to your title insurance, all your fees and stuff when you go to sell that property. So hopefully that helps you answer your question. Mark Lee, Dennis, I had a mortgage on it in Broward County. Let me scroll back. So Broward County trustees sell with a mortgage. So if you bought it, and I'm assuming it was an HOA it sounds like you bought an HOA foreclosure that you purchased at an auction, and there was still a mortgage on it. In the state of Florida, HOA liens are going to be junior to the mortgages. So if that mortgage is on it when you bought that HOA, if the HOA foreclosed on that property, you bought it at the auction, it's going to be junior to that mortgage. That mortgage is still going to exist. So that mortgage is always going to be on there unless you pay them off, negotiate with them, that kind of stuff. Now there's all sorts of different ways to strategize that. We're kind of getting, I think it's getting away a little bit from tax investing, but if you were to do that type of situation, you could rent it out for a year until the bank does foreclose on you. There's all sorts of different ways that you can do it. You could try to sell it back to the owner. There's a different strategy. You got to be very creative in order to make it work. But more often than not, the mortgage is going to be too high for it to pay off and actually make any money. So that's kind of the downfall with investing in HOA liens. Hopefully that helps you. United Parcel. How do you use credit cards to bid for auction? Great question. Some places you can actually just swipe a credit card, like you're checking, like you're at the grocery store buying groceries. You check out, hand your credit card, they swipe it. It's the craziest thing. You walk out owning a piece of real estate. Had that happen, I've done that many times. Now they will charge you a surcharge, and that surcharge is going to be 3 to 5%, but it's the cost of doing business if that's your only option. Otherwise, what you'd have to do, if they don't accept a credit card, and many, I guess more and more places are accepting credit cards, but if they don't accept a credit card, what you'd have to do is get some sort of credit card advance, which, is going to be very high interest, talking, depending on your credit and all sorts of other stuff, of course, but 20, 25, 30% interest perhaps. So there's lots of interest attached to that. So you need to strategize correctly. Buy the property, sell the property, pay it off, move on. Take that profit, that capital that you increased or that you made and then invest that instead of credit cards the next time. So hopefully that helped you out, but definitely credit cards are an awesome way to start. If you don't have any money, as long as you're very, very disciplined with paying that off, and as long as you have a very, very solid plan. Don't just go out there, swipe your credit card, and start buying land, hope you can sell it, because obviously that's going to be it's going to be difficult to if it takes you a year to sell when you're talking about 15, 20, 30% interest, that kind of stuff. So hope that helped you. Mag 3690. Does one need a real estate license or any other license to buy property in a tax detail and sell property as an individual? No, absolutely not. And actually, so I got into, my backstory is I got into real estate as a real estate agent. I started selling property for other people, started selling property for a couple of investors. And long story short, I'm like, these guys, the ones that I was working for at least, I'm like, these guys aren't much smarter than I am, right? So let me go ahead, let me start investing a little bit. So I started investing a little bit, and I just happen to have my license now. Like I said a few moments ago, I do broker stuff for very, very close friends. I've got to have a relationship with them. If I've got some other friends that are investors as well, and I help them out, that kind of thing. But I'm not active as far as a real estate broker. As far as whether it helps or doesn't help, one could argue both ways. One could argue that it doesn't help because it kind of skews your viewpoint, right? Like, I've sold a lot of properties with a quitclaim deed without title insurance. That is a huge no-no in like the realtor world because that's so much liability on them, that kind of stuff, because they're just kind of the middleman, that kind of deal. So, but when you are the real estate brokers, you do have training on how to value properties and that kind of stuff. So, one can argue both ways. There's really no benefit to having it though. Truthfully, when it comes down to it. So you don't worry about rushing out and getting a real estate license or anything. If you do have it, great. If you don't, that's great too. Let's see, Mag 3690. Which counties have credit cards as payment pre-bidding and post-bidding? That's going to be on a county by county basis. Michigan is a very popular state, for example, that I think every county there accepts a credit card. So just kind of goes to each different county. But yeah, that's kind of it's not the easiest way to do it, but there's no directory or anything like that. It really varies from county to county in every single state. Before going to the online auction, does one need to do title search for the county records, or does one need to pay a title company to complete the title search, and what is the best method? I would recommend learning how to search the titles yourself. It's a very simple process once you know what you're looking for. In most states, the only thing that's going to stick with that property are going to be your governmental type liens. You're talking about your city and your county liens and your IRS liens and any state liens or EPA stuff like that. So once you know how to search for those, it's a very quick process, very easy way to do it. You can pay somebody, obviously, but if you pay the title company, your money's going to go out faster. It's going to come back, I can promise you that. What some people have done as well is you can hire a title agent and just or maybe a retired agent, a retired title agent, or maybe a agent that is out on maternity leave or part-time, that kind of stuff. Pay them an hourly rate if you got to, if you're not comfortable researching titles yourself. Say give them 10, 20 bucks an hour or $10 a property, whatever you want to do. You got to work your numbers out for yourself, figure out what works best for you. But you can definitely do it yourself. Another way to do it is to find somebody that is a title agent that will teach you the basics on what you need to look for. That's going to be the best way to do it, especially if they actually search in the county. Because as far as accessing records and stuff, it can vary from one county to the next. But so many records are online nowadays. It's usually just going to be a matter of searching the owner's name, making sure the title history to that property goes from one person to the next, and there are no crazy liens. Pretty simple process, though. Mark Linus. Okay, yes, absolutely. Perfect. You're welcome. Thank you. All right, let's see. Parcel. Do you know the list of counties that sell credit? Okay, I think I answered that one actually for somebody else. Don't have a list of people that accept credit cards because it does vary. And sometimes, truthfully, one county might accept it one time and they might not accept it next time. I've heard of counties requiring cash before, and then the next year they don't even allow cash. So it really just varies from one area to the next. My suggestion, of course, is just to go directly to the tax collector or the treasurer or whoever handles the tax sales in your area and simply ask them. And if they don't accept it by swiping it, go back, call your credit card company if you have to. That's the only way you can invest and get that advance see if that helps. And actually, one of the pre-submitted questions talked about that as well, and something I was going to go into on that question, but I'll go ahead and go to it now. Another great option might be to partner with somebody, find an investor, find that businessman, find that uncle, find that person, that your friend that maybe has a few $1,000s or whatever to invest with. And one thing you can do really when you start off, you don't have any money, you could say, listen, I've got this, here's the numbers, this is going to work, boom, 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 lay everything out, know exactly what you're doing, right? And then say, listen, when it's all over, said and done, you can take 80% of the profits and I'll take this little measly 20%. And do that enough, and eventually you'll have enough to do your own deal in addition to those deals. That's another excellent way that many people get started. Obviously you can invest with IRAs. There's so many different ways to come up with the funds to invest if you really get creative enough about it. And obviously we teach about that stuff in the academy. So what else we got? Mag 3690. When one buys property in tax deed sale, do we take the title of deed in individual name, or do we use a land trust or LLC? Is there a benefit to each type of taking title for tax purposes? Okay, so tax, I try not to comment on tax purposes because my situation is going to be different from most people. I love LLCs though personally because they put a layer of protection between us. I used to quite a bit, but I don't put stuff in my personal name anymore. And the reason is it can be just a liability nightmare. Because you have this property, especially if it's out of state or if it's a building or whatever else, somebody walks into it and then boom, you're on the hook for whatever liability that they have. They could literally walk into your building, break their arm, and they could be suing you personally because they broke your arm while they were trespassing. The world's a crazy thing, and everybody's litigious right now. So be careful when you put stuff in your personal name. Obviously, if you buy a piece of property and you need to refinance it or something like that, a lot of banks are going to require that. And obviously, there's insurances and stuff like that can help out. But I like LLCs personally. That's what I've been advised to do. Obviously, it's a little bit different for every single person, though. So hopefully that helped out. There are also benefits, of course, to land trust as well. So let me jump back to a couple of these pre-submitted questions real quick, and then we'll go back and forth. Lachelle basically said, she said, my husband and I missed our auction. However, we got a CD with all the tax liens that did not get bought. Will these liens be profitable? We are new at this. So they missed the tax lien auction, but they bought a CD, or they were given a CD with all the leftover tax liens. Basically, it's an OTC type liens, over-the-counter liens. Yes, they can be very, very profitable. OTC liens are kind of a hidden gem if you know what you're looking for, and if you're very diligent on the research that you perform as you're looking at those OTC liens. And the same thing for OTC deeds, truthfully. So yes, you can. Now you have to think, I kind of do the 3-strike rule, right? You have a property owner that failed to pay the taxes on that property, strike number 1. You have a property that went to a tax sale auction, whether it's a lien or a deed, and nobody bought it, strike number 2. Strike number 3 is if it sits on that OTC list for a very lengthy period of time. But if you get it right when it hits the list, or if you utilize a certain number of different strategies, yes, OTC, liens and deeds both can be very profitable. I'm actually working on an OTC class that is going to be a kind of an add-on type program if anybody's interested. So be sure to check back. It'll be hopefully available in the next few weeks. Been working on it for a number of months now, so that's going to be included for my startup members. But also, if you just want OTC stuff only, it's going to be a great resource for you to be launched here soon. So let's see. Sean said, on one Florida tax sale purchase, I used a certification company, but the buyer's mortgage company wouldn't accept their underwriter. Have you had this issue before? Or any way around it? Yes, I have had that issue before. I'm curious what, and I don't want to I guess I don't want to put them on blast here, but yes, I have had that issue before. I'm curious which company it was, but what happened in that situation, we went back to the company, we kind of worked back and forth. It was quite a bit of aggravation. We went back and forth and back and forth. Meridian, okay. We went back and forth, and eventually they accepted it with, they had to rewrite some stuff, that kind of stuff. So it ended up working out in my situation. As far as students and stuff, I don't think I've ever had anybody completely get it rejected. I really don't think so. That is one of the issues that can happen with a tax sell certification company, and it can be an expensive mistake, and not a mistake, expensive lesson, I guess, that banks are, what happens when you deal with a mortgage company is mortgage companies, they have their underwriters. They like to check their little boxes, like go down the list, everything looks good. Everything looks good. Everything looks good. And then if there's anything different, anything outside of that at all, they're like, whoa, we don't want anything to do with this property because it's just a little bit different, right? Like they just want to go, they just want to stay in their lane, stay in their little boxes and check because they don't want any issues down the road when they go to sell that mortgage to Fannie or Freddie or something like that on the secondary market. But you know, I really don't have a solid answer or solid suggestion in that situation just because we haven't experienced. Unfortunately, it sounds like you were one of the rarities that has happened to, and I apologize for that. I just don't know any way around it, truthfully. Besides a suit to quiet title where you have a judge's order signing off on it. But obviously, go to the top of the pecking order at the mortgage company. You know, you're providing clear title as far as that depending on the contract stuff, but you're providing clear title for that property, and you know they're obligated to buy it. It's just a matter of their bank whether they accept it or not. Say, listen, get another lender if you have to because you're obligated to buy this property. There's a lot of different things. Obviously, that's something you might want to consider getting an attorney as well. So let's see. Mag says, what state and counties in those states have freely available info online for researching due diligence on properties? Which states and which counties? It varies from one area to the next. For example, the county that I reside in, there's lots and lots of information online, but like 2 counties away, there's hardly anything online. So it's going to really vary. What I've found, and I'm going to kind of put a caveat on this at the very end, but what I found is the bigger the county, the larger the budget, the larger the tax base, that kind of stuff, the more in their budget that they have for technology. And when you have that technology, you can put the deeds online, you can put the property appraisal information online, the building department, you can put all sorts of other information online that's very easily accessible to the general public. Now, unfortunately, when you have that big budget, we have all this information online, that means that tax sale investors, real estate investors in general, are able to access that information. So it's almost like a magnet to attract, you know, tax sale investors because everything's available online. You know, you can have people from the other side of the world researching properties, you know, because everything's online. So that data, it sounds like it's great, but when you have competition, and the reason you have such competition in a lot of the larger areas is because everything's so, you know, so readily available online. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So if you have to work to get that information a little bit, that it might be aggravating up front, might be aggravating to figure out their system or to, you know, I've had times before where I don't have a GIS, where I just have nothing but plat maps, right? I compare a plat map to Google Maps, and it takes so much longer than just pulling up on GIS. But I know that there's a lot of people that will not put in that effort, so my competition goes way down. So while it's not as convenient up front, on the back end, when there's less competition, it can make it worthwhile. So, but as far as a specific county or anything like that, it really varies from one county to the next based on their budgets. Because GIS and all these programs online are not cheap to set up. So just kind of keep that in mind. But usually, bigger the county, better technology. Smaller county, you know, the less it's going to be online, but lower competition as well. Let's see here. Meridian title, United Parcels. There's lawyers that can quiet a title that's cheaper than tax certificate. Okay, so as far, yes, there is. I've paid as little as $650 to get a title quieted. Now, I think I did like 10 at one time or something with one attorney. And this attorney was also a tax sale investor. Met him at the auction and basically struck a conversation up. And this is also, you know, this is a great way to meet and to learn about this is to find local people, find other investors. But this particular attorney that did it for me was also a tax sale investor. He was a real estate attorney who had retired. All he was doing was tax sale investing, and he would do a suit to quiet title for you. So what he did, the way he organized, and I'm not sure if you do this in every state or not because I'm not an attorney, but what he did, he prepared one quiet title lawsuit. And he just inserted my name and like 15 other tax sale investors on that quiet title lawsuit versus like, you know, hundreds of different defendants that we were quieting their claims. He submitted everything at one time. And you know, it took quite a bit of time. It was a very lengthy process for him to do it, but it was also very cheap. Money was, I mean, it was cheap. So my suggestion as far as getting the cheapest attorney that you can find, call around, because all that you want at the end of the day is that judge's signature that says the title is clear. That's all you care about. You don't care, you know, if they have, you know, a nice receptionist or a nice office, or if they work from home, or, you know, you don't care about any of that stuff. All you want is somebody that's qualified to file that information for you, get that judge's signature so you can get that title insurance. So call around to, you know, everybody in your county if you have to, and just find the cheapest price. Aside from that, the best way to do it is to talk to other investors and see what works for them. Because like this guy that I use, you know, You're not going to find him on Google. I think he's an elderly guy, has like zero internet presence at all. You call his phone number, you leave a message, that kind of stuff. So, it's a type of situation where you can't track him down unless you knew exactly what he did, right? So go to auctions, talk to people. It's a great way to learn. Had a couple more questions on the pre-submitted, and we'll keep going back and forth. Let's see. Okay, Dylan said, is there a way to know if a lien is going to go unredeemed before buying it? Any signs? So basically what he's trying to figure out, can he invest in a tax lien and buy a lien that has a higher likelihood of going unredeemed or unpaid, because he doesn't want to earn the interest. He actually wants to get that property, whether it's through foreclosure, whether it's judicial or non-judicial. But so he wants the property. He doesn't not really care about the interest on that lien. So he's asking, is there a way to find one with a high likelihood of going unredeemed? Yes. There's a few different ways to do it. You can look at like names. If it's in an estate, for example, and the taxes have not been paid for a year or two, there's a good chance that that property will go through, all the way through, because the heirs don't know about it, don't care about it, don't have the money for it, whatever else. If it's out of country, that's another one. You have this tax bill. Somebody over in UK or something has this tax bill, doesn't get the tax bill, moves, forgot about his American land, whatever the situation is. That's another one. Out of state is going to be another one. I've even seen deals where there's like 15 owners and nobody wants to pay it because like somehow they ended up with it, like maybe it's heirs or something like that. That's another one. You can also look at the ownership history. Believe it or not, if somebody's owned the property for 40 or 50 years, I have to do some math here. That'd be at least 18 to buy it. So 40 or 50 years, you're talking 60 or 70 years old. If it's even longer than that, they could be deceased or just have lost interest in the property. So that's another little trick there. So hopefully that helped you out, Dylan. Let's see. United Parcel, have you made millions doing just this business? I've been in this business for just about 17 years now, though, and I've done a lot of transactions, lots and lots of transactions. So, yes, done very well. Wonder Brito said, "What is your common exit strategy on tax deed deals? Wholesale, fix and flip, fix and hold. Why?" Generally speaking, what I do is I am in the I guess wholesale is going to be the best way to do it. I buy properties as cheap as I possibly can. I mean, obviously, right? I buy properties as cheap as possibly can, but I don't sell very many properties at market value. Most of the properties that I sell, I would probably say 85 to 90% of the properties I sell are going to be resold to other investors. And it's not like, wholesaling is like popular now, where you just control the property, that kind of stuff. But I actually buy the property and I sell it more or less at a wholesale type price to an investor. I sell them get in, make a little bit of money, get out, and you just do that over and over and over again. And just because I don't want the holding costs, I don't want the liability, that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, I've got other avenues that I do with other stuff as far as holding stuff, rentals, that whatnot. So hopefully that helped. But what platform you use to sell your property and often owner financing it? I use literally anywhere under the sun to sell properties. I've sold properties on Craigslist before. I've sold properties on eBay before. I've sold properties on Realtor, on Zillow, on classified ads. Anywhere under the sun, I've sold them. I've sold lots of properties to a buyer's list. A buyer's list, if you have not yet, I've got a number of videos here on YouTube. If you haven't seen one of those videos on my buyer's list, that's going to be a phenomenal strategy, especially if you're working with predominantly investors like I do. So what will happen is, you're selling these properties very, very quickly. So you send an email out to your buyer's list, and then you have all these people looking to buy properties. They know it's going to be discounted. They know they can make money off of it. They'll get the email, buy it, move on. That's a phenomenal way to do it. As far as owner financing, yes, you can owner finance properties. There's good and bad in that, obviously. You have to be careful with Dodd-Frank laws nowadays. So if it's a structure on it and you are owner financing it for somebody who is going to live in that structure as their primary residence, you need to make sure you run that through a mortgage originator or a mortgage company, because you actually cannot do that anymore without verifying their ability to repay that loan. So Dodd-Frank has killed a lot of owner finance deals for single family residential properties. Let's see, we've got Klein the other day says, if nobody bids on a property at auction, what happens to it? If nobody bids on a property at auction, it typically is available over the counter. Some states will re-auction it, some states will hold it in a land bank, stuff like that, but it'll be available over the counter in many states. That's basically where you walk in, you stroke them a check, and you walk out with the property. Price, what margin do you typically look for? It all depends because the numbers can range. It might be $1,000 transaction, might be a $10,000 transaction, might be 50. I don't know. So it just it can vary from one transaction to the next. If it's a small transaction, if you're talking like less than $1,000, you usually need like 2 to 3 times your. You need to be able to buy it for $1,000 and sell it for 2 or 3,000. That's gonna be like without a quick. It's gonna be a quick claim deed, very quick, that kind of stuff. There's a small window there though. If you're talking like a $2,000 or $3,000 property that you're trying to sell for $5,000 or $6,000, what happens, right? So your margin needs to be a little bit bigger there because you have to account for title insurance and suit to quiet title, tax closure certification, that kind of stuff. So that margin has to open up once you get above a couple $1,000. Usually less than a couple $1,000, you can sell it without title insurance. You can utilize a quick claim deed, and the buyer really isn't too concerned. Much more than that, you need title insurance, which means you have to get a wider margin. Once you hit the $2,000 to $3,000 mark. Then obviously above that, you have a whole other issues to worry about. If you're talking a $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 property, what's on that property? Is there maintenance? What are the taxes, like that kind of stuff? But obviously your margins, you're not gonna 2 and 3 extra money on that kind of stuff. So hopefully that kind of helped you. Mag 3690. If one gets the property at tax deed auction and we get the deed, we still need to evict the person who's currently living there. Can you talk about that process? Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few different ways you can do it. I absolutely recommend cash for keys. I've got a video on that as well if you have not heard from it. Essentially, now first off, before you do this, you have to understand that you or somebody, I guess close to you, a friend, family member, that kind of stuff, basically tell them, here's what's going to happen. They need to go to the door. They need to knock on that door. Say, listen, I work for the owner of the property. I work for the person that just bought the property at the foreclosure auction. Because you never want to be first person. You don't want to say, I'm the owner. I'm the one that bought your property. I'm the one that's going to kick you out. You don't want to do that. You want to say, listen, I work for this company. Even if you are the owner of the company, you still technically work for that company. So I work for this company, and we've got a deal in our business plan. We buy these properties, we resell them, we rehab them, whatever else. So unfortunately, we can't let you live here anymore, but we don't want to just kick you out. We just don't think that is fair. So, if we give you $300, $400, do you think you can be out in 48 hours? I would not give them much longer than a couple of days, because then you have to worry about, hey, are they going to rip all the cabinets out, the air conditioner, everything else? They might, even still. But the shorter time period, the better. Give them some cash. Say, listen, I want to help you get on your way, get on your feet as you move forward from this situation. I'm here to help you. Let's get everything. Let's work together. Let's move. That's the best case scenario. Outside of that, you do an eviction yourself. Usually a couple $100 will take care of it, and that's just going to be court costs and that kind of stuff. You can do a eviction, and depending on the state and the state's laws and stuff, you can do a writ of possession in many states, which a sheriff will post on their door, and they have 24 hours to get out from that point. If you have not spoken to them by that point, a lot of times they'll call you and say, listen, I can't get out in 24 hours. What can you do? That's another way. Say, listen, tell me about the property. Send me some photos, and or even meet them at the property, and then go back through the cash for keys type thing, because that puts a little bit more pressure on them, right? And then outside of that, you can hire an attorney, and you can kick them out, have them do everything for you, completely hands off. Obviously, when you start doing stuff like that, when you make aggressive actions like that, have to think, that's going to need to budget for maybe some cabinets, maybe some air conditioner, maybe that hot water heater, that copy that they steal, whatever it is. So the more aggressive you are, the more you need a budget for issues as they move out or on their way out. So hopefully that helped you out. Let's see. What is your best auction you like to go to, online or in person? I love in-person auctions. Online is very, very convenient, just because obviously you can do it from just about anywhere. But I like in-person auctions. I think you can do very well in either one. So don't say that I've got to go to in-person auctions. But a lot of times the in-person auctions, especially in the rural areas, are going to be the best bet to get cheap properties, because you have the rural areas, you have the whole technology issue that we've already discussed. But you also have, properties or areas where people have to drive to, right? Like you go to these auctions, and a lot of times they're going to be interested in like 1 or 2 properties. There's going to be a whole slew of other properties that you can invest in. But I enjoy in-person auctions just because you can talk to other people, you can interact, you can find out what works for them. So maybe you can apply what they do to your business, or just a piece of what they do to your business. You can talk to, you can get different contractors, builders, attorneys, stuff like that. So hopefully that helps you out. Let's see. Sig Slossler, random questions. What type of sign do you put in the yard? Do you use those little info boxes? Any tricks to that? Okay, he's talking about, so I get this question every now and then. I'm not sure where it actually comes from, but a lot of people are like, should I just put a bright orange sign or anything like that? And I don't know if there's any psychological benefit to a bright orange for sale sign or whatever, like I don't know the whole psyche behind that. I've always had success with your typical for sale sign, right? As far as boxes, the little info boxes, the ones that have the little tube on top or the little box out front that says like flyer, take one. Yes, I do use those. Well, actually, I should say it depends. If I have multiple properties in that area, I will not use them, because if somebody calls, I'm like, hey, I've got that property. By the way, I've got this one, this one, and this one, if you don't like that one. But if it's the only property in the area that I have at all, I will include those. And the reason is, if somebody pulls it out, they're like, oh, I don't like it. It didn't waste any of my time, okay? I'm not going to be able to turn them into a buyer for another property they didn't like that, because I don't have anything else out there. So it just kind of depends on the area. If I live in another state, who do you send to bid for you? Great question. It's actually one of the pre-submitted questions as well. And this is a little bit tricky. So obviously the is to go yourself, arrange it where you have multiple auctions one day, maybe 3 or 4 auctions in 1 week if you can set it up like that. But oftentimes you can't. Then you also have situations in like states like Oklahoma, for instance, where they hold every single auction in every single county in the state on the same exact day in June. So like that's another example where you have to find somebody to bid for you. So you can hire a scout or I guess somebody basically pay a bidding service. And there's a lot of different ways you can do this. And it really boils down to your trust level with them and exactly what you need to do. I would definitely get a contract written up. I would definitely put your max bid amounts down, that kind of stuff. But I generally recommend is find like a realtor. Get a realtor, call a few of the local realtors, say, listen, this is what I want to do. I want somebody to bid on properties. Can you do it? Or do you know somebody that can? Realtors a lot of times will, if they will do it for you, they're going to be a great person to do it with, especially if you get like new realtors, green realtors, that kind of stuff. Obviously, you need to make sure their licensing laws allow that, but they also know that they have that real estate license, hanging on their back wall that they don't want to lose, because they're not going to screw you or anything like that. You don't just want to go get a random person off the street. That license does help you out in that regard. Obviously, again, check your licensing laws, that kind of stuff. But realtors are a great resource. Otherwise, call them. Say, listen. Call the local ones, of course, in that county. If you can't do it, who else could I get to do it for me, that kind of stuff. Realtors, I've worked with other investors before that have bid for me. I've even had scouts, like, unlicensed people, but I've used them for other stuff previously, like handyman stuff. And I had to develop some rapport with them, had a relationship with them prior to them actually bidding on my behalf. Because a lot of times they have to trust you too. They just don't want to get a person off the street, because it's going to be their driver's license or whatever that registers with your name. So your money, their name. If you don't pay, or they bid on something you don't like, there's definitely a mutual 2-lane road as far as the respect and the rapport and the trust goes. Mag 3690. If we buy a tax lien first year, when second year comes to the county, ask me if I wanted to pay the taxes for the second year if the property does not pay them by that time. Awesome question. So that's called subsequent taxes. It depends on the state. So certain states will require you to buy the subsequent year. So let's say you bought the first year, right? The second year, they'll say you need to buy these taxes. Otherwise, you lose your position. In other states, they'll say you have the option to buy these taxes. You have the first option, and if you don't want them, we'll sell them to somebody else. But when you foreclose your first lien, if it gets to that point, when you foreclose the first year, if you have that one, you'll also have to pay this person back with their interest. And then, of course, in other states, it doesn't matter. You just bid on like everybody else. So it depends on the state. They're called subsequent taxes. Great way to kind of stack, I guess, the debt to help you. If it's a state where you have to, or you have the option, you buy them the next year, you just keep stacking that interest up, because hopefully that property has a lot of value. Obviously, you might want to research that property just to make sure that it hasn't burned down or lost value or anything like that. But yes, it really depends on the state, though. Sometimes you require, sometimes you have the option, sometimes you don't have the option. You just buy it, bid on like everybody else. Tony G, I'm going to bid on a tax deed property. There's a car, boat, and lots of personal property in the house. It looks like the place has been abandoned, but do I have to store the previous owner's property? This is a great question, and there's no specific answer that every single investor or attorney is going to tell you. The best thing that I can recommend, as far as the car and the boat, call the DMV, track down who it is, figure out what they require to be done with motor vehicles, because if there's tags on it, that kind of stuff, say, listen, I've got this abandoned stuff, I don't know what to do with it. Can you help me out? Call them, get the laws on that kind of stuff, because it definitely is not going to be your stuff. And oftentimes you might not even want it because there could be liens and that kind of stuff on it. But call the DMV, ask them what happens with that stuff. As far as the rest of the personal stuff, you can do it a number of different ways. I've heard of people renting like pods, like storage containers, storing it in there and keeping it for 30 or 60 days until the person comes back. My suggestion is day number one, as soon as you find that stuff, track down addresses, go to the county courthouse, you look in their foreclosure file, get all the addresses that they have, and start sending certified letters out to every single person. But also a little trick here, on top of that certified letter, send just a normal first-class mail, because oftentimes, when you see a certified letter coming at you, it's not going to be a good thing, right? Like how many checks do you get in the mail that are sent certified? Usually it's bad stuff. So a lot of people will not sign for certified mail. So in that type of situation, what you need to do is send certified mail and first class mail. Say, listen, I've got your stuff. I'm going to hold it for this period of time, whether it's a week, 2 weeks, however you want to do it. I would give it at least a few days, especially if there's sentimental type stuff, nice furniture, hutches, photos, anything like that. If it's just a bunch of trash and junk and that kind of stuff, go in there, trash it out, and move on. Don't worry about it. But if it's actually stuff that has value or sentimental value, send it out, give them a few days. Oftentimes, it's going to take you some time to maybe get some contractors rolling or to actually, get the deed from the county. It might take you a few days just to kind of get everything lined up. So in the meantime, day number one, send those letters out, send them overnight, whatever you got to. That way, if they come back in 6 months, say, listen, I sent this, you lost the property, I didn't have to do this, I sent this out, here's a letter. And obviously, you might want to also consider checking with a local real estate attorney just to confirm that you don't have to do anything special. If it's, in most areas, going to be abandoned, it is abandoned, but it doesn't hurt to try to do or make an effort to do the right thing, because I've heard of a lot of aggravated people coming back after the fact and raising Cain. So hopefully that helped you out. Do you have a staff that you train to research your property to scale, or you do all this on your own? So I do the majority of the stuff on my own, believe it or not. I do have, as far as spreadsheets and stuff like that, and the very basics. Like so we have like on the tax law cabinet, for instance, we have spreadsheets that members can utilize, and they have research spreadsheets. Now I don't go and type the parcel number and all that good stuff. Like I don't fill out every single section. I go in there and I basically say yes, or I'll strike through it. Yes, strike through it. So I go through it really, really quick. And the reason is, number one, it's my money, and I want to have as much control as possible. Now, as far as maybe some preliminary type research, is it vacant? What's the size? That kind of stuff. I'll have people help me with that at times. If I just get overwhelmed. And then if it's a piece of property I'm going to bid a lot of money on, I'll just go and double check their stuff real quick. So I've trained the very basics. But as far as digging in, I kind of just enjoy it, as goofy as that sounds sometimes. I enjoy digging into properties, learning about properties. But as far, it's all, when you research properties, it's all about efficiency. So you just have to learn how to be efficient in how you research properties. And over time, once you research more properties, and we research tens of thousands of properties, so it's like, you have to go through it very, very quickly. Like I said, I do have help with some of the baseline stuff, but all the big details as far as the valuation and stuff, I do on my own. So let's see, Sean, if you have a realtor bid for you, do you send money to a real estate agency's escrow account for deposit? It's really going to depend on the area, the firm, that kind of stuff. Most of the big firms, like your Remaxes, your Keller Williams, that kind of stuff, they're probably not even going to allow it. So you're going to go to a local firm. And a lot of real estate firms don't even have escrow accounts in certain states, just because when you do have an escrow account, like in the state of Florida, you have to reconcile it like on a monthly basis. You have to have all these records and all that good stuff. So a lot of real estate accounts don't even have, real estate brokers don't have escrow accounts nowadays. So that's between you and them. The safest way to do it is to make like a cashier's check out to the county directly and say, listen, go ahead and give this to the county, maybe make it for a few $1,000s more than you're going to spend, and they can give you a refund or something like that. Obviously, you might want to run that by the county as well, but that way you have that cashier's check and it's not made out to somebody directly, it's made out to the county. You can also, in some counties, open an escrow account or put money into an escrow account with the county. So that's another option, but that's going to be on a case-by-case basis. So, AB, can I buy Trump's tax return? I can't help you there. United Parcel, do you rehab or sell wholesale? I sell wholesale most of the time. I do rehab from time to time, just depending on the exact situation. If I can, I know if I can get a deal where I can rehab it and make exponentially more money, I certainly am not going to turn that down. But for most time, I'm going to buy a piece of property at a low price, sell it for a low price, let somebody else take the time to rehab it, leave it on the market, that kind of stuff. I'm in the business of buy and sell pretty quickly. Does Texas County conduct online tax deed sales? Which website do you suggest for Texas online auctions? So Texas, I'm not positive, to be honest with you. Most of the auctions in Texas are going to be handled by attorneys. Go to the county that you're looking at, and more often than not, they're going to refer you to an attorney's office. And I think, gosh, I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but there's probably 4 or 5 different firms, I believe, in Texas that handle the majority of the sales there. And you can bid on, I believe, some of them online, but go to your tax collector or your treasurer in whatever Texas place you're looking for, and that you're look for tax sales, delinquent taxes. You're going to click on a button. It's going to send you over to the attorney's website for handling the tax sales. They'll list the properties. They'll have the struck off properties and all that kind of stuff as well. Let's see. Now, Todd Aldridge, is there a quick way to check for IRS liens? Truthfully, there's not. Have to check the person's name in official records. I think we had this question earlier. Have to check the person's name in official records and kind of go back and see what's been recorded against that person. Like we discussed earlier, more often than not, the cheap tax on properties is zero concern whatsoever, because the IRS knows they not only have to go through the whole process of doing everything, they have to sell that property, they have to pay a realtor, a commission, they have to list it, they have to do all that kind of stuff. So, if it's a cheap property, I wouldn't be too concerned about them stepping in. If it's a more expensive property, obviously, the more expensive, regardless whether it's IRS liens or anything else, the more diligence you want to do. And so kind of keep that in mind. There's not a super easy way. It just takes a little bit of effort to do it. But even if they have 120 days to redeem it, you get your money back. So you're kind of tied your money up for a little while, but it's not the end of the world. Pac-Man, how to clear title of mechanical liens after a tax deed auction. The mechanical liens should be removed during the tax foreclosure process, provided they had proper notice. If they were not removed, I would contact an attorney, have them reopen, or see if they can reopen the foreclosure file, and then re-notice them or whatever they do. There's different ways to do it. But they should be cleared through the tax deed auction. Make sure now, because sometimes what will happen is you have the tax deed, the whole process, and then the people are kind of getting smarter at this. After the auction, they'll actually file a lien at that time. Then it becomes the investor's responsibility. So be careful in that kind of situation. I've seen it happen a time or two. Nick, hey, what kind of results have you had by simply mailing offers to OTC tax deeds versus cold calling or door knocking them? Simply mailing offers to OTC tax deeds. So you're talking about buying OTC tax deeds from the county, or I'm not sure I follow your question, Nick. I'm sorry. So yeah, as far as mailing offers, maybe to pre-auction stuff, if that's what you're referring to, buy before the auction. There's definitely a market there. It's a numbers game though. It's the more stuff you send out, the better. We're talking if you get a process worked out, that might be a situation where you can hire a VA to pull addresses and stuff for you. Throw them onto a label. You print the labels on a postcard, a letter, whatever you do, and send it out. You can see successfully at, but it is definitely a numbers game. Buy it last minute before the auction. And the great thing about buying it before the auction is going to be that as long as there's no mortgage and stuff that you have to worry about, it doesn't go through the tax foreclosure process, the title is going to be clear. But as far as buying an OTC afterwards, OTC you definitely be buying straight from the county. So hopefully that has helped. And as far as door knocking, I don't really do a whole lot of door knocking. There's a lot of people that have a lot of success doing door knocking, but I tend to, truthfully, I'm busy enough doing this. Let's see. Of course, what's the average time frame you sell your property? It depends. It can really vary. I try to be very fast on it. A lot of times too, what I'll do is I won't be quite as aggressive. If I want to sell a property in a week, 2 weeks, I could definitely do it. If I have, the low margin, send it out on my list, that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'm not quite that aggressive. What I'll do is I'll work kind of in bunches. I'll have, these properties over here, create marketing plans for them, send those out to my buyers list, or start marketing those properties, maybe in one particular area. Or in this area, I'll go that area. So I kind of work in batches, more or less. So by that process, I might have this set of properties longer than this property because I, kind of work down the list, that kind of stuff. So hopefully that helped you out. But as far, if I have sold properties, literally before I left the auction, before I sent a list out or an email out to my list, have people that I know want the properties or properties in that area. And before I leave my chair, hey, I got an offer for the property, or if somebody says I want more information, that kind of stuff. So I've done that before, which is phenomenal once you build that buyer's list up. Okay, Pac-Man, can I get a home equity loan on a tax deed property? So first off, you're more likely going to have to go through the suit title process, get the title insurance issued back on that property again in order to get a home equity loan, because that same title that's not clear, the bank is going to want it clear. As far as how long after, it's really going to depend on a bank. Some banks will say right away. Some banks will require a seasoning of 6 months. Some might require a longer seasoning. But yeah, you can definitely get a home equity loan on a tax deed property or a HELOC or something like that. Obviously, that's going to depend on a case-by-case basis based on your credit, your bank, that kind of stuff. If you intend to keep it, yeah, absolutely, for sure. Nick says county tax deeds. Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of the same thing. You can basically, what you can do is you can send out letters. Again, when you do the letter type situation, it is going to be a numbers game. Send out lots and lots and lots of them. Maybe do some follow-ups. Maybe do something weird. Like some one letter one day, a postcard the very next day. That kind of stuff. Like, did you get my letter? That kind of stuff. There's all sorts of creative marketing ploys you can do, plans you can do. Maybe send them to a website where they can fill it out. Then you can, if you wanted to, I've heard of people stalking them on like Facebook, that kind of stuff, as weird as that sounds. And then door knocking, obviously, that's gonna be the best way to get face-to-face if you're comfortable doing that kind of stuff. And if obviously, if it's gonna be worth your time, I guess, is the question, whether it comes down to it or not. So hopefully that helped you. Lucy says, can we see again a replay of this seminar? Yeah, it should be posted probably within the next, as soon as I close out of here in a little while, it'll be posted fairly quickly afterwards. I think YouTube takes like 10 or 15 minutes to get it all uploaded and whatnot, but it's going to go right on. I don't take it down or anything like that. Then also I've got a number of these. I think I skipped a month or two, but I've got I think November, December, January, February maybe, that are also a lot of great questions. Those two, if you want to just listen to me in the background, that kind of stuff. You don't get sick of my voice, hopefully. So had a couple of other pre-submitted questions. Guys, if you have any more questions, feel free to submit them right now for me. And I'm going to go through probably 3 more of these pre-submitted questions and then answer anybody else's questions, and we'll kind of get rolling from there and start closing it out here soon. Let's see. How do you find somebody willing to bid at an in-person auction? We actually talked about that earlier. Let's see. Alejandra said, can I truly invest without ever going to see the properties? The truth is, yes, you can invest. Can you do it successfully is going to be a different thing, and that's going to be, eventually you're going to get burned by something, because quite literally the property could have burned down, right? Like, even when you have like something incredible as Street View, right? Google Street View, that's a great tool, as you can drive down the road, see what's there. But properties, hurricanes blow them away in the state of Florida. Places get burned down. You have places that are dilapidated. You have all sorts of other issues. So, even though that might have happened 6 months ago, the very next day it could have burned to the ground. So obviously you want to get some sort of boots on the ground. I hate to use that term, but you need somebody there that can help you out, whether it's a realtor, a scout, somebody off Craigslist that can just send a bunch of photos to you, whatever it is. Send somebody there to do as much diligence as possible if you can't make it yourself. Your 2 eyes, though, are going to be the best 2 eyes to watch out for your own money. So, AJ says the fastest way to make money in tax law investing. I know you say to have patience. Yes, I do. Yeah, definitely. Tax law investing is not a get-rich-quick scheme, regardless of what late-night infomercial guys want you to do. I don't even think there's any more late-night guys around, but tax law investing is one of those things that does take time. As far as the fastest way, if you want to make money, it's going to be, if there does not happen to be an auction soon, obviously this comes after learning what you're doing, right? You don't want to just rush into it. Got to make money, that kind of stuff, because I hate that, because people rush themselves in situations that they probably shouldn't get into in the first place. So learn what you're doing. After you learn that, the fastest way to make money, if there's not an auction that just happens to be around the same time that you're looking to make money, you can look at OTC properties. And you can, there's all sorts of different strategies. And again, like I said earlier, I'm going to come out with an OTC class. It's going to be a kind of an add-on to the academy, or it's going to be included for startup members. So there's crazy good strategies you can utilize to make money. But you have to be very strategic, very creative about it to make money fast. Otherwise, guys, patience and exposure. See as many properties get auctioned off as possible. Be in the right place at the right time. I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and I told her a story, and it boiled down to me going to hundreds and hundreds of auctions, and then boom, right place, right time. I actually got a podcast on it that I put on my own podcast, Best Day of My Tax Life. All boils down to being in the right place at the right time. But I mean, it shouldn't take you years and years and years, right? Like you can eventually get there, learn what you're doing, and then progress every single day, attend as many auctions as possible, that kind of stuff. And of course, there's different ways to do that. There's different ways to better your odds, better your chances too. But OTC property is going to be, you don't have to wait on any auctions. So, let's see. Doug says, how in depth does your book go? It's actually a very good book. Let me see. Got this one here. This is a 198-page book. It's a great book. It's going to show you exactly everything that you need to do, but it's not going to go very, very granular. It's 198 pages, right? Like I can't fit everything in there. The Tax Law Academy, just for reference, is like dozens and dozens of hours, and this is probably, I think this is like a 3 or 4 hour read, or maybe not even that long. I've got an audiobook too, maybe a 2 hour, I'm not sure, but so it doesn't go to granular detail like we do in the Academy. But if you're just learning about tax sale invest, or maybe you've been in real estate for a long time, or you just heard about it, but you want some more details, this is really going to lay it all out there. It's going to break it down. It's going to show you the research things that we do, the ways we market properties, the way that we do it. And this is all based around my experience and like what I've learned over the years, not only doing it myself, but also teaching other students and learning off their experiences as well. That's really kind of the cool thing about the Academy. So what I'll do is I will get a email from time to time and be like, hey, listen to this deal. This is amazing. I got one the other day. It's like, I'm so excited. Can you hear me screaming in all capital letters, which is like phenomenal for you. Like, it's like the most fulfilling thing ever. But so I listen to their successes and I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. They pulled this piece and they did this. Let me expand like with this in the Academy. So based on other people's successes and my own, I kind of grow the Academy and the information inside. So hopefully that helps you out. But this playbook is awesome. It's the book itself is free. Just help us cover shipping costs. The book is, I think, it's $4.97 in the United States. So less than a Starbucks or something, and we'll get that shipped out to you. So let's see. I saw somebody asked about the audiobook. Actually, when you check out, you go to taxlawacademy.com, and if you want the audiobook version, if you're the person that likes the audiobook better, you can add the book on. That is not free because we had recording costs and stuff like that. But so you can add it on when you check out for that. Let's see, we got a few more questions here. We're going to be closing out soon, guys. If you do have any more questions, go ahead and submit them now, please. Let's see. You should create another coaching program for realtors in sales while targeting investing at the same time. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lack in the market, I guess, for that. With the Tax Law Academy, I'm super duper busy though. So I love helping students, love investing. It's like the best of both worlds for me. Maybe one day though. Lacey, if you were in California and you do not have a lot of money to start, where can I start it? Will it be Arizona or Vegas, Nevada? What do you think? So Nevada does have tax liens and tax deeds both. Arizona has liens. Arizona, you can actually pick up quite a few liens for pretty cheap. OTC, that kind of stuff. So obviously, you have to do your research and whatnot. But if you don't have a lot of money, be patient and look at a lot of properties. That's going to be my biggest suggestion. Like, don't just buy the cheapest first thing you find. Like, search properties. Like, as you don't have, if you don't have a lot of money, maybe you're pulling in some money from your current job or wherever else and keep stacking to your pile. But as you're doing that, learn. Like, take the time to learn. Invest in yourself is like truthfully what I can tell you, because it might sound corny, but learn everything you can do. Learn everything you can right now, because learning by investing can be a very, very expensive lesson. So learn everything you can right now, and then go out, look in Arizona, look for your OTC stuff, look for those properties you can be very creative with and how you sell them. Maybe pre-arrange a buyer for your properties. Maybe flip a tax lien, that kind of stuff. Like, there's all sorts of ways to do it. Just a matter of like thinking outside the box. The less money you have, the more creative you need to become in order to make it go farther. So, strategies for realtors and tax deeds. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was thinking, Pac-Man. All right, guys. I think that's all the questions that I've got. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. We are at 1 hour and 8 minutes. Wow, I think it's the longest one yet. Guys, as always, if you have any questions whatsoever, when you're watching a video on YouTube or anywhere else, please just post right underneath that. That's going to be the best place for me to see your question, and I usually answer it right there. It comes right to my phone and stuff. If you follow me on Instagram, there's a link down below. Don't do a whole lot on Instagram, but if you happen to follow me, send me a DM. I'll respond on there as well. I'm always more than happy to interact and help you guys as much as I can. Obviously, plugging the tax sale playbook, we just talked about that. It's a great resource. If you want that step-by-step training that I was talking about, taxsaleacademy.com, click on join. I would love to have you inside the academy. It's literally my life's work put inside the academy for step-by-step stuff. I can sit here and answer questions all day long because I love doing it, but obviously there's going to be gaps in the information that I'm teaching because it's not like a super structured way in this hour. And of course, inside the academy we have lots and lots, many more hours to teach you the step-by-step stuff. So another thing too, guys, Tax Sale Podcast. As always, if you ever find a video that you do enjoy, please click that thumbs up button. It really helps me to because I look at all the likes and all the comments and stuff to see what videos, what topics people enjoy the most. So click that thumbs up button. It really means a lot. And also subscribe to us here on YouTube and, of course, the podcast feedback, all that good stuff. Really love that positive feedback from you guys because it lets me know that I'm helpful for you. Guys, that's going to be it for today. Hey, take care, and I will see you next month for the live Q&A. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below the videos. Take care, folks.